Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth Newsom and welcome to my booktube channel. Today I'll be doing my wrap up for August 2019. So I haven't read a lot of books lately because, again, multiple trips and conferences and school and moving in. I've really had trouble with time management lately, like for the past 2-3 weeks. Which you could probably tell by the infrequency of my posted YouTube videos. And unfortunately my reading has suffered from that as well. I've read a bit on trips, but a lot of times on trips now I'm socializing, telling people about my book, selling my book, which has been really great. And I absolutely love getting to know other people and just hearing their stories. My reading has definitely suffered, especially as I've done more writing, but that's how it is sometimes. So not only am I doing my August wrap-up, I'm probably going to touch on some books I also read in July, just so we have enough to talk about. And I read all fiction books, which is kind of bad. I try to balance it out with nonfiction, and considering how few books I read and there wasn't even nonfiction books, I just feel like I wasn't very good with reading for these past few months, actually. Anyway, my favorite book that I read this month would be Traitors Mask. So it's a book I saw recommended as an Amazon ad, and it was recommended based on some of the other clean fairy tale retellings I'd recently read by Melanie Cellier. So I decided to click it and check it out. Like I said, it was a Cinderella retelling, and it was actually really good. So Cinderella in the story, I forgot her actual name. I think it was Tristan, but she tells the prince her name is Ember because they don't tell each other their real identities for a while. What she does is she sneaks out and she goes riding in the king's forest where only nobles can go riding, and she runs into the prince there, but she doesn't realize he's the prince, and he kind of prefers it that way because for once someone is not treating him with all this pretense and fake politeness. And then of course Tristan doesn't want him to know who she is because, honestly, I forgot why. Maybe it's because she doesn't want her stepmother to figure out where she's going on her rides, or that she's even taking these rides in the first place. Anyway, they run into each other and they meet up and they just talk. With most Cinderella retellings, you know, they meet at the ball, love at first sight, and this had none of that. Like, they meet a few times and they just gradually get to know each other. So I thought that was really great, a nice refreshing twist on what you usually see. So they meet 3 times, and then at the ball, so it's called Traitors Mask because she's also employed to be a spy to lead to the prince's downfall and to elevate this other prince so that he is the heir to the throne. So the oldest prince is actually not heir to the throne. The father decided to make an exception and make the younger son heir to the throne, because the younger son's a lot more responsible, even though he's less charming and less attractive. And that younger prince is the one that Tristan falls in love with. So Tristan gets involved in this plot to lead to this younger prince's downfall, not realizing that the younger prince is the guy that she's been meeting with and that she really likes. So this book just had me hooked. Like, the romance and the plot and everything, I just kept on reading and reading. I was pretty addicted to it. And then the next book is Dune. Dune was really close to Traitors Mask. I really enjoyed it. In Dune, these 2 girls take a trip to Scotland. While they're there, they discover this secret portal that goes to this place called Dune, which is kind of like a old Scottish place where everything, where they're not fully advanced on technology. So the portal to this place opens once every 100 years, and when it opens, they send people out to go study the latest technology so they catch up to that period of time. So they have a few things like plumbing, but overall it's pretty primitive compared to what there is now, of course. So these 2 girls figure out a way to get into Dune using these magical rings before the portal opens, which causes a lot of suspicion because there are these witches trying to, well, this specific one witch that's trying to lead to the downfall of Dune, and so they think that because they came early and without the use of the portal that they're probably witches. But it starts off with them traveling to Dune because the main character, well, one of the main characters, Veronica, has been having these dreams about this guy, and he's this really cute Scottish guy who calls her Veronica or something like that. Probably did a really bad Scottish accent. Anyway, she keeps on having not only these dreams, but kind of these waking visions where she sees him and she tries to talk to him. And he's super cute and he seems really sweet. And then so searching him out, she goes to this place and it turns out to be the portal, and then her and her friend are transported over. Except the prince is kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure how I felt about the prince. Actually, I am sure about how I felt, and I wasn't a huge fan of him. Just because he kept on being like hot and cold with her because he was worried about her tearing him away from his duty. If I were her, I would have been like, after a point, like, okay, I'm done with this. You can pursue me or you cannot, but I'm not gonna like keep chasing after you and acting like a wounded puppy when you reject me. Like, if you don't want to pursue me, that's your loss. Just with how hot and cold he was going, like a lot, I wish the main character had kind of been able to distance herself a bit. Instead, she was agonizing over him this whole time and just reacting to whatever his mood was, whether he was super affectionate and flirtatious or kind of standoffish and pushing her away. Just my preference, what I would do. I know all characters are different, and my forte isn't always likable main characters, as my readers can tell you. And then the other main character, McKenna, she has dreams of going to Hollywood and becoming an actress, and she also really likes musicals, but she meets the younger Prince Duncan there, and she really wants to be with him, but she also really wants to achieve her dream of going to Hollywood. So we have these two romances set up in this conflict, and also this whole plot with the witch, because she's still around and she's trying to lead to the downfall of Doom. So there's a problem. Overall, really enjoyed this book. There were some aspects of it that actually reminded me of my book, where it's a portal fantasy and they're taken to a new world, and there's a romance with the ruler of that world. Next we have Zombie Takeover by Michelle Harper. I met Michelle, I think, almost 4 years ago now. Well, maybe 3 years ago at Realm Makers, my first Realm Makers. Oh my goodness, I remember my first memory of her. It was a zombie Nerf war, and she had all this like face paint on and blood, and she looked like a zombie, and she's just like such a bubbly, happy, outgoing person. She is a blast. I always look forward to seeing her at Realm Makers. Anyway, I'd never read a book by her, but I was pretty familiar with her publishing company and some of her authors. A lot of her authors are friends of mine. And I heard this book recommended by two girls I was talking to at Realm Makers called Zombie Takeover. And so Zombie Takeover starts with this girl who goes to this movie theater where they're playing a zombie movie with this boyfriend who's a jerk who breaks up with her during the movie. And then it turns into an actual zombie takeover, and she gets stuck with this famous actor and they're trying to survive together, which all sounds kind of like unlikely and cheesy, but like it's worth it, and I can't even describe why, but there's the biggest plot twist, and it just makes it just makes everything make sense. And it was a totally unexpected plot twist, but it really, really worked for this story. So this story is pretty humorous, and it's one of the least dark zombie books you'll read. And overall, I feel like the girl's pretty realistic. She freaks out and panics a lot. I mean, sometimes I wish she would be more helpful to the hero and like help him out with stuff and kind of emotionally calm herself, but to be fair, it is a zombie takeover. That's a pretty stressful situation. So really loved this book. One of my favorite zombie books. I've read zombie books before, but usually they tend to take they veer more towards the horror genre. This was not quite that. So if you kind of like zombies and post-apocalyptic things, but you don't want things that are too dark or gory, this is definitely for you. Really, really enjoyed it. Then we have The Princess Game by Melanie Cellier. So this is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but instead of her going to sleep, she's cursed, and the curse makes it look like she's lost her mind. So how the curse works is that when she's around other people, she has to appear like she's stupid and mindless. And if she acts out against that, then she'll kind of be punished for it through the curse. Like she'll get this crippling pain and she'll have to stay in bed for the day pretty much. But essentially she can't let anyone else know that she's like an intelligent, capable person. So she also has this alter ego, or this alias, pretty sure it's alias, named Aurora, and she's in charge of this spy network. And since she disguises herself, she's allowed to act intelligently, and she recruits servants of the royal household and just protects the royal family that way, and she's able to act intelligent when she's disguised as Aurora. Well, then this prince guy, actually I think he might be king by this point, he comes and he visits, and he kind of suspects that something's up, and he's entranced by her and her beauty, of course, because even though she's cursed, one of her gifts when she was born was that she's really, really gorgeous, like the most gorgeous person ever. So he's entranced by her beauty, and he's also kind of curious about her, and he suspects some stuff is up and that she's not really stupid. And that's where this book starts off. It's been a little while since I read this book, but I remember really liking it. You know, again, Melanie Cellier does a really good job just taking these classic fairy tale stories and adding a slight twist to them, and making them new in a refreshing and fun to read way, but also still having the familiar, fun vibes of those classics. And I think the last one I'll review today is Love and Other Mistakes by Jessica Kate. I reviewed this a bit more in a different video, so I won't talk about it too much here. But there's this girl named Natalie, and her ex-fiance Jim kind of walks into her life like she's one of his emergency contacts. So she's called, shows up, she thinks it's her dad who has cancer, but it's actually Jim, and then she gets stuck with him, and she needs a job because she's helping her parents out with bills since her dad has this cancer and her mom just spends all her time caring for him. So Jim offers her this nannying job, nannying for his son, who he had with his ex-girlfriend, and it's his ex-girlfriend he dated after he was engaged to Natalie, so it's a little complicated. Anyway, really enjoyed this, even though contemporary romance usually isn't my style, but this was one that was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. Well, there you guys have rating my wrap-up for August 2019. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe because I post one bookish or writing video a week. In the comments, let me know what you've read in August, and if you plan on reading a lot during the school year, because I'm not sure I'll be able to. So let me know down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!